All right. Okay, I'm going to call this Committee of the Whole meeting to order at 6 p.m. here in City Council chambers. Do we have any remote electronic attendance? Doesn't look like it. You see the mayor's board appointments. Are there any questions on the agenda? All right, we will move to a presentation. City of Moline 2020 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report.
That's me. Good evening, everybody. Tonight, we are asking the council to pass a resolution accepting the city's comprehensive annual financial report, which was prepared by Baker Tilly Virchow Krause LLP for the fiscal year January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020. On the screen, you'll see, and we'll be presenting Mr. Michael Mulot with Baker Tilly, and he will give a short presentation about this audit. So, Mr. Mulot.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Yes. Thank you.
Excellent. All right, well, first, thank you for having me tonight, especially thank you remotely. Makes childcare a little easy tonight as the wife is out of town for work, so this works out really well. Before I get started, I just want to first introduce myself to those of you who are new to the council. My name is Mike Moline. I'm a senior manager at Baker Tilly. I've been working on this audit engagement for quite a few years now, and have really have had a great experience with the city, with working with really all the various people that work at the city, and really starting out thanking the entire finance team, Carol, Lori, and Keith in particular, for all the hard work they put in to make this audit work smoothly. We basically come in, ask a bunch of questions, look at a bunch of stuff, make a giant tornado, and then let them do their day-to-day all at the same time. So without the efforts put in by your finance team, your audit would be a long, arduous process. They allow us to do our job well, which we greatly appreciate. So I just want to thank them first. In front of you guys today, there are a number of different reports. I'm going to go through each of them relatively briefly, but if you have questions, obviously stop me and let me know. There are 4 reports, I believe, in total in front of you. There are the financial statements, which is the big report that we issue annually. Associated with that is the audit results letter, which I will get into what that is and what that entails. There's also the report on federal awards, which is our work around your federal grants and your spending of those dollars. And then the last is the TIF compliance report, which is our opinion on the work we do in addition to the regular audit associated with the city's spending of TIF money in accordance with state statute. So very briefly on the city's financial statements, while we assist the city in preparing those statements and compiling them and putting them together, it's really your numbers. Your finance team pulls together the accruals and the balances, and we audit them to make sure that they are what we call materially stated. So it does not mean we look at every dollar, but there's certain thresholds that we're guided by under the accounting standards, the auditing standards, that require us to evaluate your financial results for the year. It is your report, your numbers, your information, and we provide an opinion in the front. That is really the only thing that's our language that's coming from us. The rest of it is from your administration, your finance team, telling you what the health of the city is as of 12/31/20. Our opinion is what we call an unmodified opinion, which is the highest level of assurance we can give. It essentially means that your financial information is at a position where, within all material matters, allows you to understand where the city's financial health is at that given date. If there's a couple sections in there that are really worth looking at, I wouldn't necessarily expect everybody to read through all 200 plus pages of this thing. The transmittal letter and the management discussion analysis, I always find to be 2 highly valuable sections to read in conjunction. The way I view it is they're kind of a combination. The transmittal letter will provide you a lot of context of what happened in the past and during the year and an understanding of things that the city is, where they stand and where they're going in the future. And the MD&A gives you more of a summarization of the financial performance for the year and some explanations for why things happened the way they did. They basically distill everything else that's in the report down into, I think, about 20 pages total versus the hundreds of pages that the rest of the report has. And the way the report moves is from, kind of higher level and higher picture, bigger picture, all the way down to some more minute details with your budgetary statements for all the various funds that you have. Really the picture of the year is that your overall health, your governmental funds and your enterprise funds both experienced surpluses in 2020, despite everything that was going on during the year. The governmental funds in total had about $2.4 million surplus, and the enterprise funds had about $2.2 million surplus. It puts you in an improved financial position, obviously, as a result from year over year. Additionally, again, despite the insanity that was 2020, your pension position also improved, which is always, obviously, in Illinois, something we're all very focused on. A few key things here is that the IMRF pension actually moved from a liability balance on your books to an asset, essentially meaning that the fund is over 100% funded, and that's solely due to investment performance. Despite all the volatility, particularly in the beginning of 2020, the strong market recovery at the end of the year really improved where IMRF sits. It also improved your police and fire position. Both those funds increased about 3 to 4% in their ratio of the money on hand versus the actuary's determination of future liabilities. So, most standalone police and fire pensions in Illinois are, in the kind of 40-ish% range that you are in, but seeing continued performance year over year. If you want to see how that performance in those pensions have improved annually, there's the required supplemental information section. I forget the exact page that it's at, but that gives you kind of a year over year. Some ratios as to where the pensions are sitting, and gives you an idea of how it's improved over the last 6 or 7 years since the standard that required those schedules came into effect. Some other things to note, the stat section in the back gives you a lot of trend information. So if you're looking to see, okay, what have we done this year versus the last 10 years, the statistical section is where you'll find a lot of that information. It's intended to provide you kind of more than just the point in time that the majority of the financial statements present. It's providing you a historical context as well to see where your financial position is, some other metrics related to your property taxes, your debt positions, and some demographic information as well. The only other thing I'll note in there is a disclosure related to the ARP Act funding that is coming the city's way, which is I believe, in excess of $20 million. It's a significant financial impact to the city, so there are some disclosures associated with that in there as well, which is new. Everything else is fairly consistent with prior years and statements of what is disclosed and what the information is in there. So that's the financial statements at a high level. I mean, it says the 12/31, 20, so it's 5 months ago. So going into more detail, obviously, if you have questions, I can certainly answer those. But otherwise, I'm going to move on to the other reports. I'm going to leave that at the high level there. So the next report, and I'll probably spend a little bit of time on, is the audit results letter. And whereas I mentioned that the city's financial statements are really your numbers, your information you're presenting to the public, despite the fact that we assist with preparing that report, this audit results letter is our letter. What this is an assortment of required communications we, as auditors for the city, have to make to you as the governing body, to communicate to you, what our responsibilities are, what we did during the year, and a whole assortment of other things associated with the audit that we present to you. There's a whole bunch in there, but a couple quick highlights, to point out. At the very beginning, I'm going to move this kind of from front to back here on that report. It does lay out our responsibilities as the auditors and management's responsibilities as engaging and working with us. It also provides you an overview of kind of things that we saw during the audit. First, on things we focus on, the things that drive what we do. You'll notice in there's 2 what are called key significant risk areas, and none of those in particular are specific to the city. So I always want to call those out. I don't want to raise any alarms by seeing these significant risk areas. What they are, they're required risk areas for all entities being audited, whether it be governments or private businesses or whatever they may be, that we're required to incorporate that risk in evaluating that, the potential impact of that, on the financial statements. So we basically devise things that we do to make sure that those things didn't happen, which is management override and revenue recognition. They're two huge hot point issues that we're required always to evaluate and consider. And the good news is that we were able to audit those areas successfully and evaluate those and ensure that those risks did not occur during the year.
Can we ask a quick question?
Yes, absolutely.
Manual override and what else are the two big risks?
Yeah, so management override of controls and revenue recognition. So basically what that would mean for a government would be revenues, whether it be property taxes, fees, not being recorded and reported in the city's financial statements. It's not as big a risk for governments because you do not operate out of a profit motive, but it's something that it's something we're required to evaluate. It's probably more important for private enterprises because people can mess around with their revenues to impact the bottom line, whether it be pumping it up or holding it down artificially. It's not as much of an issue in the government spectrum, but it is something we are still required to evaluate.
Thank you.
Some other things in here, there are a number of other required communications. For your internal control procedures, we do, in addition to looking at the numbers, we also evaluate your key control processes and kind of things that had the large dollar values, large volume of activity during the year. And we do a number of tests from walking through the process, understanding what's going on, to actually testing them in action. And as we have in prior years, we're providing no reportable material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. And that's something to be proud of, as it shows that the city does have a really strong internal control environment, which is really not all that common in our world. We are often providing significant findings related to controls not being in place or potential risks existing. And the city has really built up over the course of years a fairly robust set of controls and processes that reduce the risks to the city. Additionally, there's a whole bunch of other stuff that we address. We indicate that we saw a lot of it's pretty standardized language associated with, okay, here's the accounting practices and your estimates, and were there any difficulties during the audit or disagreements with management or other issues, evaluating your compliance with laws and regulations and independence, a whole bunch of things we're required to evaluate. There's nothing in there that is of a significant red flag that is in there, but it is a requirement that we always communicate to you what we observed or what was communicated to us or anything that happened. The more boring it is, the better, I guess is the way I put it. You really don't want a ton going in there that I have to come in here and explain. Some other things in here, if you want to get some, have trouble sleeping at night and you want to fall asleep, there's some language on our upcoming accounting standards that are going to come into play. 2021 should be fairly light, but 2022 is going to see some changes in how you report lease arrangements that the city enters into, both as a lessor and a lessee, and a bunch of other stuff there. They're keeping us busy on the accounting side with changes. Something we'll work with finance on during the year to ensure that they're prepared for any of these changes that come through. Thankfully for 2021, we have a bit of a reprieve and nothing too major is going to impact the city's financial numbers. After that, there's a bunch of informational links in there, and this might be worth checking out if there's seeing anything of interest. Basically, what we did is gathered a bunch of informational resources. There's links in the electronic version of the report that basically provide some resources for certain things that we've seen as common trends in the kind of public sector space, really the challenges that other governments are facing. Some of it may be applicable, some of it maybe not, but we wanted to make it available to you as the council to just see if there's anything that's of interest in there. It might give you some idea of what else is going on, both around the country, not just in Illinois as well, as to what challenges other governments are facing. Additionally, there will also be, when this is issued, the management representation letter is currently not included. That's something that's signed by management prior to issuance, basically saying they gave us everything to do the audit. That'll be a part of this. And then there's also at the end a communication and planning and preparation for next year, which really lays out our responsibilities again, some of the management's responsibilities, and also city council's responsibilities. And also communicates as a reminder that while we work with finance and management on the day-to-day as part of the audit and throughout the course of the year, we really have been engaged and hired by you as the governing body. So we work for you. So if there's any time you have questions, concerns, comments, we're always available. Carol has about 8 different ways to reach me. I can't escape her if I wanted to. So if there's anything that came up, we do want to hear from you. If there's anything of interest in your mind, or you just want to know some things that we do during the audit, or finance related. Certainly, we're always available for you, as we always like to remind you guys every year. That's the audit results letter. The last two I'll be much shorter on because they're much shorter. The single audit report, so that is our deep dive into your federal spending, our spending of federal awards. This year, the program we tested, and we don't test every dollar, there's a whole methodology we're required to follow that identifies what we test. This year we evaluated one program, and that's the local CARE program received from DCO. It's their pass-through CARES Act funding. And we're glad to report that we had no findings associated with our testing of that program, kind of a clean bill of health there. The other report then is the TIF compliance report. As I mentioned earlier, that's kind of our evaluation of compliance and the way you spend your TIF dollars in accordance with state statutes. Once again, we're able to give a clean opinion on that with no findings associated with the work we did. Lastly, there's a few other reports that aren't really presented to you as deliverable reports today, but some submissions that are coming down the pipe as we wrap up the audit. There are some submissions to the state, both the Illinois Comptroller's Office and the Government Accountability and Transparency Unit. There are some filings that we'll work with finance on getting those finalized over this week. We'll also be submitting the single audit through what's called the data collection form on the Federal Audit Clearinghouse, which will satisfy all your requirements there for all of your state agencies and the federal agencies as well. So all those will get wrapped up as we finalize the audit. They kind of are the dominoes that fall after the audit is issued. So that's kind of all the reports we have. I guess with that, if you have any questions for us.
Anyone? I don't think so. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you everyone very much for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
Your Honor, do you need a motion to accept the audit report? If so, I so moved to accept the audit report.
Not at the cow.
No?
It
No.
will be on the council agenda, so we'll just do it then, Alderman Waldron, if that's okay.
Okay.
Thank you for checking. So we'll move to our agenda items. Number one is rezoning 4400 to 4450 12th Avenue.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a request by the applicant Keith Curry to rezone a piece of property at 4400, 4450 12th Avenue from O1 office to B1 Business District. May 26th, the Plan Commission met, public hearing was held to consider this request for rezoning. The Plan Commission voted unanimously 7-0 to recommend denial of this request, and the staff concurs with that recommendation.
Is there a motion? Hearing no motion,
I'll make a motion to agree with the staff and Planning Commission recommendation.
okay.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Waldron, seconded by Alderman O'Brien. Any discussion? Yes, sir, Mr. Nguyen.
I just have to disclose, one of the agents that's involved with this deal is an agent in one of my offices, so I am recusing myself from the conversation and any vote.
Thank you. Yes,
Question.
Mr. Timian.
I know that the proposal was to make this a laundromat, and there are apartment buildings nearby. Do they not have adequate? And obviously that's a private sector issue. I'm just kind of curious, like, is there a real need there for a laundromat?
I have no knowledge of whether there's a deficiency in number of laundromats. It was pointed out in a letter, and I should have mentioned in my presentation, we did receive a letter from the church next door who also asked that we don't rezone it.
Mm-hmm.
They did indicate in their letter that they felt there was plenty of opportunities for laundromats, particularly in the apartments across the street. So, but again, I can't attest to any knowledge of that for sure.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Schmidt.
I guess I had kind of looked at this, and I think that adding a laundromat there could be a benefit to people. I don't have that doubt, and that was in the staff report. But I'd be very wary of rezoning it to a completely different use case that does not have to then be a laundromat. So I don't think we should go forward with the rezone.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes. Number 2, abandoned residential property municipality relief program, round 5 acceptance.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement to accept funding from the Illinois Housing Development Authority in the amount of $45,000 for the Abandoned Residential Property Municipal Relief Program, or APP, Round 5 grant. This grant gives us the ability to take down abandoned homes, and it pays for that cost. Staff recommends approval.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Timian, second by Mr. Wendt. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes. Any others?
Your Honor,
Yes, Mr. Schmidt.
I'd like to make a motion for reconsideration of an agenda item from last week's committee of the whole meeting. It was item number 4, Brant Construction Contract for 2021 Seal Coat Program.
I second it.
All right, the motion it's been motioned by Alderman Schmidt and seconded by Mr. Macias. Any discussion?
I think after we approved this, there had been some questions asked by Alderman Waldron, and then more information was brought to my attention, I think the attention of the whole council, by several people about the quality of work that Brant Construction has done, not just here in Moline, which was our initial concern that we asked about, but also in East Moline, in history in Rock Island. And the more I looked, and when I looked a little deeper into what had happened, I don't feel comfortable continuing to work with Brant Construction. So that's why I bring this forward as hoping to reconsider the motion in order to not move forward with that.
Any other discussion?
I echo the same thing. I wish I would have known some of these things prior to voting.
Mr. Wendt?
Yeah, and I've talked with staff many times about some issues with the work product. But I guess is with this reconsideration, is the intent that we're then going to move forward with the next highest, or we want staff to come back next week with a recommendation, or what?
So I believe, yes, that would be kind of the second piece of that puzzle. I've been instructed that on making my motion to reconsider, those have to be 2 separate motions.
Okay. So we're just voting on the
Reconsidering,
okay.
yeah.
And then I intend to follow that with a motion to revisit.
Perfect.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Any other?
Your Honor,
Yes, Mr. Schmidt.
I'd like to make a motion for reconsideration of an item from last week's committee of the whole meeting, item number 5, Brant Construction Contract for 2021 City Parking Lot Maintenance.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Macias. Discussion.
The exact same reasons. It's the same contractor, I'm not comfortable with them.
If you read the motion
It's harder
again.
to mask. I didn't get all that.
Pardon me.
If you move your mic a little closer, it might help too.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
I beg your pardon. Reconsideration of item 5, Brant Construction Contract for 2021 City Parking Lot
Okay,
Maintenance.
got it, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Waldron.
Question for legal counsel. Margaret, are we comfortable in throwing out the low bid because of previous, what we deem previous poor performance? Are we on good solid legal ground to throw out the low bid and go with the second bid?
Well, that is a factor that you can certainly consider. You know, whether they're the responsible bidder, of course, allows you to consider their, overall reputation and work product. So, yes.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Yes, Mr. Wendt.
Well, are we just voting for the reconsideration, or are we voting on?
We already voted.
We already voted on the
So that was
reconsideration.
the other.
No, you're,
second
this is the
reconsideration.
second one.
So I'll wait to have the discussion about the thing.
All right.
It's just whether we should.
Hearing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that moves back for reconsideration.
Your Honor.
Yes, Mr. Schmidt.
I'd like to make a motion to direct staff to revisit the two RFPs that we had received for those projects in order to bring them back, looking at a vendor besides Brandt as a recommendation.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Timian.
No clarification.
Yes, point of clarity.
By revisit, do you mean rebid or revisit?
I apologize. I mean, I'd like staff to review those bids
Okay.
and
But not
assuming
necessarily
they have a
rebid.
bid to bring forward from second, which we
Okay.
had
All right.
multiples, then yes, to bring
Okay.
those bids back.
That's been seconded, yes?
Yes.
Okay, discussion, Mr. Wendt.
Just a question for Marty, because Joe, I think he's on
Yeah, he's
vacation.
not here.
I know with some of the work product issues they had with Brandt previously, that they had been working with them, that they were going to fix this summer some of the things they'd done before. Is moving along to a different person and not picking them as the lowest responsibility, is that going to hinder, or have they already made commitments that they're going to fix? Or I'm assuming we have something in our contracts that
Yeah, I believe the
warranty.
Yeah, excuse me, sorry.
Yeah.
I believe the fixes are part of the warranty that
Okay.
are part of the previous contract. We'll double check that and let everybody know.
And if not, it'd be great to make sure that we have strong warranties in our contracts moving forward.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Any other?
I have another.
Mr. Venix?
Yes, thank you. I just want to mention to the City Council, you should have received a copy of the first draft of the strategic planning document via email this afternoon. And with that was a memorandum cover that should be self-explanatory, but just in case, let me just mention a few things. And I also provided you hard copy here tonight as well. You may notice as you go through it that not all of the things that you may have suggested found a home within the objectives. And that's because some of those items bordered on strategy and or tactics on how we actually achieve those objectives. So we weren't included in that mix, but you'll see as you read through it carefully that it does address a lot of things. The objectives are at a kind of 30,000 foot level, so they're not purposely specific. That comes later. That comes with staff and being involved in that. Our directors have received a draft, and they'll begin to create some of those tactics and strategies that support the objectives, that support our values. And then all the objectives, as you notice, are referenced as to what idea or submission they refer to. So if Alderman Schmidt provided an idea or a thought about quality of place, it's referenced under those objectives, so you can see that as you go through it. These are drafts, so you're free to suggest other additions, but the goal is to keep this part of it somewhat short and concise as possible, and I think I hopefully encompassed most of what we talked about in our previous session in there. So as you go through it, please feel free to contact me with your thoughts. You know, I'd rather have a conversation about it than trying to respond to email, because as you can imagine, we all get too much email to begin with. So the meaning of what you intend and sometimes the thoughts of what you have are better in a verbal conversation than through email. So that's the only thing I have at this point, Mayor. Any questions I could answer on that?
Yes, Mr. Wendt.
Just for reiteration, to make sure that we're all on the same page, the timeline, I know we've had this, our initial conversation, we submitted these things to you, then I think that the process was you were going to go out to the community for a period of time, and then do we have a time frame for when we'll get back together? And
Yeah, I should have mentioned also, tomorrow during the Listening Post event, we will have an opportunity for members of the community to weigh in on the pillars and to give us their ideas and thoughts. Immediately following that evening as well, we'll have a online survey available so that residents can also go to our home page, our website, and our Facebook page and answer questions and provide rankings for the 5 pillars as well. And we'll also have some hard copy surveys available at city facilities, so people can pick those up if they don't do that part of it.
And it will be in Spanish and English.
Yes.
So will they, like at the listing post or whatever, be provided with the list of things that we provided as a?
No.
That would be
What?
too much. I think we want to get fresh perspectives, so if you give them your ideas, then they're just commenting on your ideas versus giving us a brand new fresh
They'll
perspective.
do an exercise very similar to the Post-it note stuff that we did, where we can really visualize where everyone's priorities lie around the pillars and the descriptions. They'll have the descriptions in the post. And then, as I shared with you guys, if you don't mind me
Sure,
hopping
please,
onto
no.
your other, I shared this with you over email, I think it was Friday. So the whole idea of this decision-making tree of sorts is that we are taking the pandemic-related realities we have experienced and the realities in our city, our expenditure guidelines, and we're gonna pull all this feedback together so that the council can make decisions about where our dollars should go. And then hopefully that leads to a whole bunch of community improvements. And so that's why we have to manage our listening post tomorrow with the pillars versus all of your info, because you will pull their info together with yours to further the process.
You go and then I'll come back.
Will there be a time though when people will have the chance to review the document and to make kind of that last recommendations? I thought that was in the original discussion point
Yeah,
too.
When we finally have a draft document that the city council says, yeah, this is close to where we want it to be, we'll make it public so everybody can comment and look at it. Yep.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Wood.
So, I guess a couple of things. So you were talking about the ARP things. This is not only what we're. I mean, ARP's part of it because
It's part
that's
of
how
it,
you
yeah.
fund these. But we're really talking about what our strategic goals and
Planning,
and
yep.
We may use some of those ARP funds to.
Exactly.
Okay. I just want to make sure
they
it's not
marry
just an
together.
ARP conversation.
Yeah,
It's
they
a-
marry together.
Okay.
Yep.
And then what's the time frame? I mean, so when does the public comment portion go until, and then I just don't want a situation in which I want the public comment and everything, but what sometimes happens is it bleeds and bleeds and bleeds and we.
Well, you go ahead.
June 23rd,
Yeah.
and was according to his previous email and timeline. We can shorten that if you want, but I'd
Well, I
like
have
the
no
2
problem
weeks.
if June 23rd is still the
Yeah.
date, and then we're.
Yeah, we're moving
sometime
toward
shortly
July
after-
13th.
Okay,
yeah.
that we'll be meeting again,
Mhm.
July 13th?
Well, by that point is when we want to try to adopt it, so.
Okay, all right.
Okay, anything else on other?
Nope.
Any
Thank you.
public comment tonight?
We did not.
Okay, so we will close out this committee of the whole and move to the city council meeting. Pledge of allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have no invocation tonight. Roll call, please.
Alderman Williams,
Present.
Macias,
Present.
Went,
Present.
Timian,
Present.
Moyer,
Present.
O'Brien,
Present.
Waldron,
Present.
Schmidt.
Present.
Your Honor, I request approval of Committee of the Whole Council and Executive Session Minutes of May 25th, 2021, and appointments made during Committee of the Whole on June 8th, 2021. Resolutions. Council Bill 1135-2021, a resolution declaring a city-owned 2007 Ford Ranger two-wheel drive VIN number 1FTYR14U07PA10251 as surplus property.
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
It's been motion by Waldron, seconded by Mr. Wendt. Roll call, please.
Alderman Schmidt,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Macias,
Aye.
Went,
Aye.
Timian,
Aye.
Moyer,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Waldron.
Aye.
Non-consent agenda resolutions. In your honor, I was going to
Point of order,
suggest
yes.
that we pull the two items that were reconsidered.
Yes, that's number 3 and number 4.
Yes.
Do I need to, but I don't need to do anything.
No, I'm just going to
Pulling
take
them.
just a minute to pull those out so that I
Okay.
don't read those. Okay. Council Bill 1136-2021, a resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an employment agreement between the city of Moline and Bogdan Vitas Jr.
Motion to approve Resolution 1136.
Second.
Motion by Waldron, seconded by O'Brien. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Alderman Schmidt,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Macias,
Aye.
Went,
Aye.
Timian,
Aye.
Moyer,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Waldron.
Aye.
8 ayes, no nays. And that motion carries. Council Bill 1139-2021, a resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute and attest to a First Amendment pursuant to an intergovernmental agreement with the city of East Moline, Illinois, dated November 1st, 2016, to provide sanitary sewer service for the city of Moline property located at 5320 22nd Avenue, Moline, Illinois.
Or motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Alderman Went, seconded by Alderman Moyer. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Alderman Schmidt,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Macias,
Aye.
Went,
Aye.
Timian,
Aye.
Moyer,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Waldron.
Aye.
8 ayes, no nays, and that motion passes. Council Bill 1140-2021, a resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute and attest to an agreement to accept funding and do all things necessary to execute all assurances and certifications to the Illinois Housing Development Authority for the Abandoned Residential Property Municipal Relief Program Round 5 in the amount of $45,000, and authorizing the Community and Economic Development Department to begin work upon the execution of the agreement between the City of Moline and the Illinois Housing Development Authority to accept funding for the Abandoned Residential Property Municipal Relief Program Round 5 in the amount of $45,000, and to do all things necessary to implement said program requirements.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Went, seconded by Alderman Williams. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Alderman Schmidt,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Macias,
Aye.
Went,
Aye.
Timian,
Aye.
Moyer,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Waldron.
Aye.
8 ayes, no nays. That motion passes. Council Bill 1141-2021, a resolution accepting the comprehensive annual financial report prepared by Baker Tilly Virchow Krause LLP for the fiscal year of January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020 for all municipal funds.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Timian, seconded by Alderman Went. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Alderman Schmidt,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Macias,
Aye.
Went,
Aye.
Timian,
Aye.
Moyer,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Waldron.
Aye.
8 ayes, no nays, and that motion passes. First reading ordinances. Council Bill 3013-2021, an ordinance amending Chapter 26 Police of the Moline Code of Ordinances, Section 2101 to 2319, to reflect the creation of the position of Deputy Chief. That is all I have this evening, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. We will move to miscellaneous business. Alderman Williams.
Nothing this evening, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Macias, Mr. Wen.
Nothing this evening, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Wen?
Yeah, I do have one thing. We voted on the agreement with East Moline regarding the YMCA's new facility up with the driving range, and we've done this on occasion for different nonprofits, Habitat for Humanity, different investments in our community. And so what I'd like to do is I'd like to make a motion that we, if they paid it, reimburse or forgive up to $2,700 for permitting fees for their work up at the driving range.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Went, seconded by Alderman Waldron. Discussion?
This is something that we've done before. I am going to make a motion after this that we try to set up a policy moving forward. But I think that this investment, it's the only real driving range on this side of the river. I think what the Y is doing, I think the investment in Moline is good, and I think it is, as a nonprofit that basically provides service to everyone, regardless of whether they can afford, pay for it, or anything. I think this is a good thing to incentivize and encourage them to expand in our community.
I have a question. They're outside of any sort of TIF district?
Yes, yeah, this
Got
is
it.
yeah.
And that was 2,500, Alderman Wynn?
2,700.
2,700. And the second was Alderman Waldron?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Would this be a roll call?
I think that'd be appropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the council meeting, thank you. Hearing no more discussion, roll call, please.
Alderman Schmidt?
Aye.
Williams?
Aye.
Macias?
Aye.
Went?
Aye.
Timian?
Aye.
Moyer?
Aye.
O'Brien?
Aye.
Waldron?
Aye.
8 ayes, no nays.
Yes,
That
Mr.
motion
Wen?
passes.
Yeah, and then as a follow-up, I'd like us to direct staff to come back to us with a policy that we can have some consistency that on how to move forward. We actually, back in 2016, actually had a similar issue with the Y. We had asked for a policy to come back, but I don't think it ever did. I don't think any of those staff are still here. So if this staff could take a crack at it, I think that would be great to bring back a policy there's some consistency. But we had those conversations where we may have a situation where large nonprofits, they know to ask, where maybe some smaller ones might not know to ask, and so having something that's consistent would, I think, be beneficial for the community.
Seconded. Right, because you made a motion?
Yeah.
It's a very long motion.
Motion by Alderman Went, second by Alderman Schmidt. Any discussion? Yes, Mr. Schmidt.
My comment would be, as we look to staff, is looking at directing to look for how we can give back in a way that's not going to obviously become a problem for us. That would be, what's appropriate and what's going to benefit the most people. And tell us if we're crazy too.
Yeah.
I'm open to that
Yeah.
interpretation.
Yeah, it's not necessarily everything or every 501c3 or every nonprofit or whatever. It needs to be some guideposts for us.
Are you giving enough information?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Hey, any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Schmidt?
Aye.
Williams?
Aye.
Macias?
Aye.
Went?
Aye.
Timian?
Aye.
Moyer?
Aye.
O'Brien?
Aye.
Waldron?
Aye.
8 ayes, no nays. And that motion passes.
Anything else, Mr. Wen?
Nope. Thank you very much.
Mr. Timian?
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. The other day, I was asked to represent the city in the covenant renewal. And this is when city officials, law enforcement, and school superintendents renew the covenant that they made with the Village of 1,000 Elders. That was initially done in 2017. And a little history, the covenant and the village itself was initially founded in 2014 as a response to the Ferguson incident. And the question was, how do we prevent that from happening here? It was a very proactive approach. The renewal was set to happen last year, but did not because of COVID. And I just want to express my gratitude for Chief Baltz and our school superintendent, and just for all of our community partners for being a part of this discussion and for having these kinds of conversations to be proactive and to prevent incidents like that happening locally. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Moyer?
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. O'Brien?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Mr. Waldron?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes, Your Honor. I had a very rewarding week, and or 2 weeks, I guess, since we've last met, and in the last 8 days, I have had a great many people reaching out to me, being excited about seeing our Pride flags flying in downtown Moline. And when I had the opportunity to attend the Pride Festival, that was also something that was very, very welcomed. It was treated as a symbol that showed that we're taking an effort to say that we are hearing people and that we want to bring voices to people who have a history of being discriminated against and pushed back against. And I think it was very rewarding for me, and I think I felt that in the community there was a very positive feeling, and I just am very glad we were able to move forward with that. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. I do have several things. Along the lines of addressing community and how we define ourselves and things, this is something I may use tomorrow night. You can please take one. I think I have enough for everyone. It's a draft graphic. Macy McManus in the office is amazing in terms of when I ask for her to transfer my visuals ideas into something. She's the one responsible for things like this and this that I jot down on paper quickly. So I know that we, as leaders of the city, as elected officials, must take care of our core functions, right? Water, sewer, electrical, phone, all of these things that make the city function. I know that we've been talking about our core values and things that help guide us in our decision-making processes. And what this portion here where I have the community and arrows, right? To me, that is what we have to try to get to once we've found a way to make sure those core functions work, right? What does our community look like? How is it distinctive compared to other communities? Because people can go to any place and find water, sewer, electrical, phone, etc., right? So how are we making ourselves distinctive? This is the kind of way I'm putting together some of the ways I want to address things with the community. So I wanted you to have that knowledge and know that's how I'm organizing things a little bit in my mind. So you've heard about the Wednesday event. We've talked a bit about that. I also have had a rewarding week of visiting different shifts, turnovers of shifts at a lot of our different departments. Fire department is waiting for next week, I believe. And my goal there was to get a sort of ground level view of the work that people were doing, get their ideas, especially for recruitment of more staff as our budget allows, and as has already been allotted and what have you. And I found that really helpful to learn about some kinds of different approaches we might take. I personally believe we do need to think outside of the box to recruit people to fields they might not have thought about being involved in. Water treatment is one of those. We talked extensively about how people don't understand what that is. And I have a meeting set up with our Director of Human Resources and Mr. Von Eggs this week to go over some of that, and pairing it with some of the other workforce development information I've gone through in the last couple months. But I think our recruitment strategies are really, really important so that we have the right balance of staff. I know people like to use the word right size, right? And that we're able to do the jobs we say we will do, especially in our core functions. So that's something that is coming. I had a very good introduction to the Quad City Health Initiative nonprofit as a representative for the Bi-State Commission. That fits well with my history as a nurse, and I really enjoyed getting to know them a little bit. I do think the regional discussion that I mentioned in my email to you all, just to get feedback from regional partners on what kinds of big ideas might we be able to partner on together. Some of the information they shared today was helpful in that arena. We have significant disparities in access to healthcare, quality of healthcare, and they shared a lot of good data in the presentation today. So things that I'm continuing to explore. But feedback I need from you all is about our liquor to go policy. So I don't have to make a decision right now, but there has been an extension of the liquor to go policy by the state to 2024. Correct me if I'm wrong, right?
Right.
And do you want to describe that just briefly, Margaret?
So, the governor during the pandemic issued an executive order which allowed for cocktails to go. Now it has morphed into a legislative action and has been continued until January 1st, 2024. So, taking it through New Year's. What it allows is those with a liquor license can sell to-go drinks to persons over 21 who can consume it off premises. Now, as the liquor commissioner, the mayor can perhaps consider greater restrictions such as hours of sale or how that is actually delivered so that a driver cannot accept cocktails to go and curbside delivery. Those are just examples. But the options here are you could do nothing and the law will just prescribe it, or you could advise the mayor on possible restrictions.
And I don't need that advice tonight, but just know that that's something I need to figure out, in the short term, and that we are gathering information from our directors to find out if it's been a problem since the executive orders went in place, et cetera, and all of that. So I wanted you to be aware, and that I'd appreciate your feedback down the road. Yes.
That brought up one other thing that maybe we could move direct staff on. We have that we put in recently a liquor ordinance in which you had to buy a certain volume or over $5 because our concern was vagrancy and those sorts of things. But one of the things I think we should add into it, I've had some people come back to me, they go to a grocery store, they've got $100 worth of groceries, and they want to just pick up one little thing, and they say, no, you've got to buy more liquor because now, clearly those aren't the vagrancy issues of just somebody panhandling for a couple bucks to do it. So what I'd like to direct staff to do is to come back to add like a provision that if you're buying at least $25 worth of whatever as your ticket going out, that you're not required to then buy an extra, Fireball.
Can I wait on that? Actually, Can we do our research and look at the liquor ordinance and come with a more complete observation? And then if it doesn't do what you're looking for, then we can talk about it then.
Yeah, I just think, it just seems like a really silly thing if you're checking out with $100 worth of groceries and they say, well, you got to pick up another to-go thing.
Okay.
So that
And to
Mr.
that
Williams.
extent, $10 worth of groceries, because
It's
that would
probably enough,
eliminate, because I ran into that at Hy-Vee. I wanted to buy a little bottle as a gift, and they wouldn't sell it to me.
Yeah.
My wife's buying too much money worth of groceries, and I can't get a little
Did
bottle.
they say it's your ordinance?
I didn't.
That's why I
didn't fess up. I'm like, them politicians. They're nuts.
Well, I'll take a look at all that with our staff. Yes, sir.
I just want to mention, I think personally, a minimum order requirement is ridiculous in and of itself. I think that vagrancy, if that's the real concern, then we need to treat the real problem, not the symptom of it. There might be someone who wants to buy a $2 bottle of wine, because they exist. And so, like, if the minimum is $5 or whatever it is, I think if we're trying to solve the vagrancy problem and this issue as well, maybe eliminating that requirement altogether. And obviously, research is in order. I just wanted to voice that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wendt.
Yeah, I don't disagree that we need to address the root cause of it, but until you solve the root cause, you gotta also address the symptoms. and somebody panhandling downtown, and that's really what was the issue. You had people sitting out of the outside Federation of Eagles or different places panhandling so they could just get a $1.50 fireball to do it. Now, there are limitations, like if you're getting a full bottle or whatever, if you so much volume and all that kind of stuff, that's already kind of taken into consideration. The thing I was talking about was just this little quirk thing, like you're at the grocery store and you're buying like a little gift or whatever, you're told that you gotta buy 2 of them or something. It just that didn't make sense.
Yes, Mr. Williams.
No, I had to buy 4.
Oh, 4, okay. All right. That is all I have. Oh,
One other quick question, just for timing, because I think that this is important, for the policy for the permits and those sorts of things, what's kind of the time frame that, Marty, you think you guys would be able to come back to council?
For which?
For that issue, like the YMCA with the permits and nonprofits?
I don't know.
Like 6 weeks?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, I want to give plenty of time, but I also don't want it to disappear.
okay. Any? Yes, comments from staff? Yeah, I think. So, yes, there is. Okay. Any other comments from staff? No? Do we have public comment tonight? No? Okay. Then, Mr. Williams.
Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion that the council convene an executive session for the purpose of discussion of appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees, 5 ILCS 120/2C1, and property acquisitions, 5 ILCS 120/2C5.
Second?
Motion by Alderman Williams, seconded by Mr. Wendt. All in favor, right?
Roll call.
Roll call, please.
Alderman Schmidt?
Aye.
Williams?
Aye.
Macias?
Aye.
Wendt?
Aye.
Timian?
Aye.
Moyer?
Aye.
O'Brien?
Aye.
Waldron?
Aye.
8 ayes, no nays. Okay, we'll now clear council chambers.